When I think about NIS America, my mind goes to the wacky, cartoony, almost anime-designed strategy RPGs. Disgaea, Prinny, Phantom Brave, and the list goes on. What I didn't expect was a third-person shooting RPG all around beating down demonic entities and helping souls deal with their sins. That's what we're going into today. Bit of a strangely named game, as its title will often lead you more into health facilities and services and not video games. Here is my review of Poison Control for the Nintendo Switch. In this game, you're a nameless protagonist that wakes up in hell or limbo or some kind of plane like this. Basically, you've got all of these individual hells that are personalized for the spirits and memories of girls that have committed sins and are now trapped there, their sin poisoning the area. As you arrive, you team up with a strange entity known as Poisonette, whom has possessed your body. She agrees that you help her solve these personalized hells and the girls or bells that are trapped there, and she'll find a way to get you home. The story here is a little interesting on its own, but I would call the main quest okay, and the individual stories where the real interesting stuff happens. Each mission is the story of the girl's life and the sin she committed to trap her soul and memories in hell. While I do think a couple of them kind of fall flat and they don't have as much effort put into them, a lot of them do have their real crazy jaw-dropping moments as you learn about them and what they did. When it comes to gameplay, this is a third-person shooting action RPG. As you trek through it, you'll be navigating 3D environments, shooting at enemies with various types of ammo, and doing just a bit of leveling and upgrading along the way. With main progression, this is mission-based. You have a sort of explorable hub where you can move to the different missions, upgrade your arsenal, and save your progress. But each mission takes place in someone's personalized hell. A 3D dungeon filled with demonic entities that you have to fight and oozing poison all over the ground. The system is pretty interesting, though the main gameplay loop basically has two things: shooting at enemies and purifying the poison. When you explore the stage, you have poisons or ammo equipped to your character, giving you different types of attacks to fire from your gun. At the start, you only have a couple, offering basic and heavy shots, but you can earn more later to have rapid and charge attacks and even passive abilities that you can upgrade over time. The idea here is that you gotta fight off enemies that come after you, and it's a bit strategic. You don't have infinite clip size, even though you do mostly have infinite ammo. Your normal weapons will auto-reload infinitely, though the wait time is pretty lengthy depending on what weapon it is. You gotta place yourself and pick what ammo to use for what enemies, especially towards the beginning where you don't have that many ammo types to cycle through. You also gotta think about the break system. Every enemy is different with how they act in fight, but they'll all get stunned when they take enough damage, falling to the ground, allowing you to keep pummeling them for a few seconds, or stunning them enough for you to make some distance so you're a little bit safer. And the other aspect is poison and purification. There's poison all over the floors of the dungeon, and you gotta hold L to transform into Poisonette temporarily to get rid of it. Basically, you have a timer as Poisonette, and you can walk over poison to purify and get rid of it. The only thing is, there's a bit of strategy here too. You leave behind bones when you're running around as Poisonette, and the enemies can attack those bones or you to do damage and knock you out of it. As you can expect, this is pretty difficult early on, as some areas are locked down arenas with a lot of poison on the floor. We've even got optional areas that are even more difficult, though nothing ventured, nothing gained. You're gonna want to go to as many optional areas as possible, as exploration has benefits in this game. Every stage or bell has hidden poison gems you can collect as you do their mission. Collect all of the gems in a stage and you'll unlock their poison or ammo type, giving you more to equip. Having one infinite and one finite ammo type can easily turn into two of each type, always giving you ammo to cycle through as your previous ammo recharges. These can also be upgraded back at the home base, giving you bigger clip sizes and really just more to do. So it's worth it to always explore and try to get every new poison from every stage. Now let's talk about the mission objectives, because this game does have a fairly repetitive formula to it. Most of the dungeons look pretty similar outside of different themed items placed here and there. And the game does put a bit of effort to try to make each mission feel a little unique. A lot of their objectives are based around the story and the bell that each hell is centered around, and not just go fight enemies, oh hey, go fight enemies again with a new enemy type thrown in. For example, the greedy Belle that was obsessed with finances has you often collecting money for her story to advance instead of just fighting or purifying, while the one with extreme allergies has you chopping down cartoony trees that are littered around her stage. Granted, you will always do the whole purification fighting enemies thing, it's just that some of the objectives are mixed up. Though as cool as all of this is, I wouldn't say the system is great. It works, but the aiming and gunplay isn't optimized super well. The reticle is often inconsistent with where you're shooting, and a lot of the game feels really clunky, from the delay in dodging to the lack of a checkpoint system. Having the missions fairly short does make it a good pick up and play game for Switch owners, but that also means no checkpoints or autosaves. You do the whole mission, and if you ever die, that's it. You're booted back to the hub and have to do the whole mission again. You do keep some progress, like open treasure chests, but everything resets from poison and enemies to story progress. And that brings us to content and length. There's a decent amount of game here, with your first run easily clocking in at around 12 hours give or take. That's okay for $40, though considering this game goes on sale a lot for only $5, if you nab it on sale, that's not bad at all. And that brings us to presentation. Visually, I think the game looks fine. Not a lot of jaggies around the model outside of handheld mode, and all of the dungeons do look interesting with different designs, like the very pretty looking penguins you see early on, to the fancy idol themed dungeon. We do have some hiccups when it comes to performance though. The draw distance is really weird, having enemies that actively follow you pop in and out depending on distance. The load times can be a bit long, and the frame rate is pretty inconsistent. You get a nice smooth 30 plus FPS for a lot of the game in docked mode, but the heavier stages drops the frames a fair amount in docked and a large amount in handheld. I had some portable play sessions a bit more than halfway through the game that easily dropped below 20 FPS. Play it docked when you can. And that brings us to battery life. Poison Control gives the original model 2 to 3 hours, the Lite gets 2 to 3.5, the V2 gets 4 to 5, and the OLED gets 5 to 6.5. In conclusion, Poison Control is a neat little game about Bells that committed horrific sins, and third-person shooting definitely is not what you'd typically expect from NIS. Now on the downside, we have some issues with performance and draw distance, and some of the gameplay mechanics aren't optimized the best with the reticle. But if you can stand some clunk and frame drops, it's not a bad little game with some pretty interesting story arcs for the different Bells. Reviews to Go rates Poison Control for the Nintendo Switch a 6 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.